Hello, I'm Brett Seward, Germantown School Board President. I'd like to call the budget hearing meeting to order, October 24th. We are located in the PAC of the Germantown High School at West 180 North 11501 River Lane. Joining me on stage tonight is Vice President Eric Brown, Clerk Thomas Barney, Treasurer Michael Loth, Director Kim Higginbotham, and Director Tracy Pollack, Superintendent Dr. Chris Reuter, and Director of Business Auxiliary Service, Ms. Brittany Altendorf. If you are able to rise, please do so for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. B, official meeting notification, Dr. Chris Reuter.
Public notice of the budget hearing and annual meeting has been communicated from the superintendent's office to the public via the Germantown School District website and posted in all district buildings. Additionally, per state statute 12008 sub 1, notice was given on October 11th, 2024 in the Washington County Daily newspaper as a Class 2 notice and printed on page 5B. Again on October 17th, 2024, notice was given in the Washington County Daily newspaper as a Class 2 notice and printed on page 5B.
Item C, energy exemption and debt notification. Ms. Brittany Altendorf, Director of Business and Auxiliary Services.
Thank you. Starting in 2009 and ending in 2017, districts were allowed to levy additional funds to invest into energy projects throughout their building. Per state statute 121.91, districts like ours that took advantage of this exemption on the revenue limit must report the annual expenses and estimated cost savings. So in 2015, our district invested $7 million into our facilities to reduce to increase energy efficiencies. The district expenses that will occur over the 10-year repayment period is $8.3 million, which includes interest payments. As of the 9th year, the total cost avoidance is approximately $3.6 million. This debt will be paid off this school year, so next annual meeting will be the last year we will have to report this information.
Thank you. Item D, presentation of the budget. Dr. Chris Reuter, District Administrator, and Ms. Brittany Altendorf.
Thank you. This evening, Ms. Altendorf will walk through our some celebrations from our 23-24 fiscal year, as well as the projections forward for the 24-25 fiscal year, and set the course for our future.
So before I start talking about the budget, I did want to go over some celebrations we had from the 2023-24 fiscal year. One of the main celebrations that we had was regarding our 23-24 fiscal year positive variance that we ended the school year with. The board does have a goal to continue to increase our fund balance and be fiscally responsible, so we did end the previous year in a positive variance. The second area that we wanted to celebrate was the retirement of a Fund 38 debt, which is non-referendum debt. So we paid our last payment for the 2011 borrow of $3 million. The third celebration was regarding the defeasance of $12.6 million on our referendum debt. With refinancing these dollars, this saved $6.5 million in interest payments. And then the final celebration for the 23-24 school year in the financial area is that we have $560,000 saved in fund balance for our long-term capital improvement plan. Before I start going into the budget, I would like to explain that we have two meetings this evening. One of the meetings is the budget meeting that we're in currently, and I will give a high level overview of the 2024-25 budget. School districts have to follow the Wisconsin Uniform Financial Accounting requirements, which is the WUFR coding, when we do all our general ledger accounting. So that means that we have to categorize our expenditures and our revenues into funds. So one of our funds, which is our major fund, is our general fund budget, which houses all our day-to-day operations. The second one is our Fund 21, which is gifts and donations. So any monetary gifts or fundraisers that are given or expensed from the district are tracked in the Fund 21 budget. The third one is Fund 27, which is our special education budget. So any expenditures or revenues from the state or the federal government to support our special education population is tracked in that area. Next is Fund 38 and Fund 39, which is our referendum and non-referendum debt. School districts are allowed to borrow non-referendum dollars. There's a certain dollar amount and a certain period in which you have to pay those dollars back, but school districts do not have to go out for a vote for those borrowings. And then the referendum debt is when school districts want to borrow a larger amount of money over a longer period of time in which we have to go to the electorate for a vote. Next is our capital projects funds, which is Fund 41 and Fund 46. Fund 41 is our annual expenditures for our capital projects based on our 5-year capital plan. And then Fund 46 is our future capital projects that we have based on a long-range capital plan. Fund 50, which is our food service fund, which is self-explanatory. Those are the food service for us serving breakfast and lunch to our students and adults in our district. And then finally, the community service fund, which is Fund 80, which allows us to expense some dollars in our buildings because our community uses our buildings, and also to receive revenue from rentals. To do a little more deep dive into the general fund, the general fund is 78% of our overall budget. This slide shows you the 2 previous years' actuals in our general fund, and then the final column all the way to the right shows the budget for the 24-25 school year. You can see that the revenue for this school year has increased about $2 million over the previous year, and then $2.6 million in the 23-24 school year. And then at the bottom of the slide, you can see that the expenditures have increased $2.9 million over the previous year, which is a little higher than the $2.5 million in 23-24. You will notice that in 24-25, our revenues do exceed our expenditures. That is due to the district expending ESSER dollars last year, but then claimed those dollars near the end of the school year, so the revenue is not received until this school year. So there's $195,000 in revenue that is shown on this report that is higher than our expenses were expecting. Another way to look at the general fund is in pie chart form. On the left side of your screen, you will see a pie chart showing the revenue sources that we have in the district. It is broken down by source code. You can see that on the pie chart there are 2 large areas of our revenue, which include property taxes and state aid. Property taxes is approximately 55% of our budget, or $28 million. And then state aid is approximately 39% of our budget, or about $20 million of our total revenue. And then on the right side of the slide is our expenditures broken down by function code. And then there are 3 main areas of expenditures. Instructional services, which is about 45% of our budget, or $23 million. Support services, about $18 million, which includes our transportation contracts, our custodial expenses, and all our insurance. And then finally, non-program transactions, which is about 19% of our budget. In there included any transfers to other funds, our open enrollment expenditures, and our vouchers to private school expenditures. Key takeaways in the 2024-25 budget include the membership count. Every year on the 3rd week of September, all school districts in the state of Wisconsin have to take account of how many students they're financially responsible for. This count bases how much revenue we will receive in that year. So this school year, we had an increase of 16 students than to the previous year. we had an increase of 26 four-year-old kindergarteners, but we also had a decrease of 20 kindergartners, full-day kindergarteners. This year, the school district did receive a decline in enrollment exemption on the revenue limit calculation. The revenue limit calculation takes a 3-year average of our enrollment, and if districts decline on that 3-year average, they get 1-year exemption, means they get some additional funds to be able to manage their expenses for that year onto the next year. In 2016, there was a line that was created on our revenue limit that included private school vouchers. So the district will collect taxes from the community, but then those funds actually go to the private schools. So we did have an increase of 38 students to go to the private schools or that attend the private schools. They could have been students that were already at the private school. They just filled out the voucher form that year. So that is an addition of $463,000 that will be going to the private schools. The next area is our state aid, or the funds that we receive from the state to be able to manage our expenses. We did see a decrease of 11% over the previous year in state aid. The final the final property values, we have 7 municipalities in our school district, and the average property value increased 5.7% over the previous year. That is a decrease of the 9.5% you saw in 2023. Property tax levy, with a decrease in state aid, there is an increase in property taxes because that makes the whole of our revenue that we're allowed to receive. So we did have an increase of 5.58% in our overall property tax levy. With that said, the mill rate, or the average amount per $1,000 value of a home, did not increase. So the district is still at $8.20 for the $1,000 per home value in the district. One of the areas that I spoke about previously was regarding our fund balance. The district does have a board policy that we would like to have our fund balance at around the 18%. It is important to have a moderate fund balance because it will decrease in the cash flow borrow that the district will need to do. And then it will also increase our Moody's rating because it shows that we're financially responsible if we do have to go out for a borrowing. We did not have a short-term borrow in 2023-24 due to our percentage of fund balance, and we do not plan on having a borrow for the 24-25 school year. The next funds that I'm going to go through are the 20s and 30s funds. Donations, Fund 21 and Special Education Fund are in the top box of the slide. They are combined. Fund 21 donations, as I stated before, are monetary donations to the school district, but also included in there are student activity accounts, which include clubs as well as fundraisers for athletics. And then Fund 27 Special Education did increase $800,000 over the previous year for a total budget of $9.7 million this year. On the bottom of this slide is the debt service fund. Again, those are referendum and non-referendum debt. This year, you will see that we have revenue that is larger than our expenses. We are building up our fund balance in there because the way that our debt payments are, we collect a large dollar amount and then we pay off the debt in a future year. You do see that last year that the expenses exceeded the revenue. That is the refinance that we did. We had to pay off the debt to refinance to be able to save the $6.5 million that we did last year. The next funds on this slide are our last 3 areas. The capital projects funds, again, is Fund 41 and Fund 46. You do see that we budgeted $550,000 in Fund 41 for our capital projects for this school year. That is based on our 5-year capital plan. And you do also see that in here there's in Fund 46, $560,000 in the fund balance between Fund 41 and Fund 46. The next area, the middle category, is food service fund. This is a self-sufficient program. They have to bring in their revenues to be able to have expenses. The district does not cover any of these expenses. This budget year, you do see that their expenses exceed their revenue. That is due to them planning on replacing some equipment that they have in the kitchen at Kennedy Middle School. And then finally, the Community Service Fund. Again, that is a fund that we are allowed to use dollars to be able to have expenses on our buildings because the community has access to our buildings. One of the areas that we have to go over during the annual meeting or the budget hearing is expenses that we do use for Fund 80. If we levy dollars in Fund 80 at the annual meeting or the budget hearing, we have to explain what we are using those dollars for. So some of the areas that we are using those dollars for are we can use a percentage of our utility costs. We have percentages based on the amount of time our buildings or areas are used by the community, so we can use that percentage in utility bills. We have a portion of our custodial support in Fund 80. We have a portion that we are able to pay wages of people that work in the Performing Arts Center. We can pay those out of Fund 80. Also, playground maintenance, our communities has access to our playground, so playground maintenance, there's a portion that can come out of Fund 80. Maintenance costs for heavy used areas like our field house and our pool, we can have some of those costs come out of Fund 80. And then finally, our school resource officers, we pay the village to have school resource officers in our buildings, and a portion of that can also come out of community service account. My final slide is regarding enrollment. I did state before that our revenue is based on the number of students we have in our district. This year you can see in 24-25 that we are comparable to the 23-24 school year. This is due to we had an increase in open enrollment in students. We had a decrease in open enrolled out students, as well as the 26 4-year-old kindergartners that we had an increase this school year. That concludes my budget presentation for this evening.
Thank you. Item E, public comment. We would receive any public comment or question regarding the budget at this time. There's a microphone at the front here if anyone would like to come forward.
Sarah Larson, Butternut Road in Germantown. Just a big thank you for the way you handle the finances and the refinance of that debt to save the district extra money. Brittany, you have been such an asset to this district and how you are managing the budget in combination with the administration and board's decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comment or questions at this time? Seeing nothing, seeing no further, I will adjourn the budget hearing. And we will resume the annual meeting at 6:30.